Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Pam Banky, Director of Product Marketing at KnowledgeLake, and I'm thrilled to have with us as we explore an incredible transformation New Belgium Brewing has undergone with our intuitive AI platform. You're about to hear a remarkable story of how one of the leading names in the brewing industry has elevated their operations, streamlined their document processing, and boosted efficiency with cutting-edge technology. We have an exciting panel of speakers today. We're going to start with Christy Gary, our Vice President of Strategic Accounts, Ty Eden, IT Enterprise Manager at New Belgium Brewing, and Nick Heimbrock, our Senior Product Manager here at KnowledgeLake. But before we begin, a few housekeeping items. This webinar is going to be recorded and will be available for later viewing on demand. We also encourage your participation, so please feel free to ask questions in the question window that is beneath the screen that you're seeing right now. And we'll address those Q&A during that session later on. But without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Christy, who will start by diving into a conversation with Ty about their journey and how they've leveraged KnowledgeLake's intuitive AI to transform their business. Christy?
Thanks, Pam. Hi, everybody. I'm Christy Gary, as she mentioned, Vice President of Strategic Accounts at KnowledgeLake. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to talk with Ty Eden from New Belgium Brewing. Ty, let's kick things off with you telling us a little bit about New Belgium Brewing and how you began this journey with us and what your main challenges and your team were facing that led you to seek out an AI-powered solution.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. Thanks for having me here today. It's hard to believe New Belgium's been around now for over 30 years. I know we're most famous for beers like Fat Tire, Voodoo Ranger Series IPAs, Bell's Two Hearted, and Oberon, and many others over the years I'm a pretty big fan of. But yeah, it's an exciting industry to be a part of with craft beer in the alcohol beverage world. It's always changing and ever dynamic, and it's just a really exciting and fun space to work in. But with that, we've been fortunate to have some good growth over the last few years. And with that growth, we have new facilities and locations spread out around the US, along with a growing workforce. And so, yeah, we've really had to really be diligent with our enterprise focus around content. And that's really what my team is doing, is really focused on business process automation of content, structured and unstructured documents. And so we really needed to move away from some of the manual document processing and kind of stepping away from some of that. And as that was slowing down our processes, introducing errors, consuming a lot of coworkers' time. And let's be honest, I think a lot of times the business doesn't have an appetite for having to manually index and tag content. So we just needed to find smarter and more efficient ways to manage the workload. And that's when we started looking at automation solutions, and KnowledgeLake's intuitive AI platform definitely stood out to New Belgium.
Awesome. So what made KnowledgeLake the right fit? There's lots of automation solutions out there. So what was it about our platform that really resonated with you and your team?
Yeah, great question. For us, it's really a combination of the flexibility and intelligence that KnowledgeLake offered. Your platform didn't just automate our document processing. It really learns from our workflows and adapted over time, especially with the machine learning side of things. We also needed a platform that was adaptable. We're always changing. It seems like our business processes always need to be changed or moving into some new process. We needed something that could morph and change with us, and KnowledgeLake was definitely adaptable and fitting that bill. To allow us to seamlessly integrate with our existing systems is also a big one.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Let's talk about the benefits that New Belgium has seen and experienced since you implemented the KnowledgeLake platform. Can you share some of the tangible improvements that you've seen in your operations?
Yeah, absolutely. The impacts are fairly immediate. First and foremost, we've seen significant reduction in processing times, especially with the AI engine and extracting that data in a fraction of the time that it used to occur. We're also getting really high amount of data accuracy with that data extraction. Our error rates have gone down quite a bit. Which has reduced a lot of the time that we spend on corrections and rework, of course. And our overall productivity has increased as our team can now focus on more high value tasks rather than the manual document processing side of things. So it's been a great transformation for us for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Hours and days down to a fraction of time. That's awesome. I think it's worth emphasizing this, this type of transformation. It isn't just about saving time. It's about freeing up your team to focus on what really matters most with your organization. Can you give us an example, like how this efficiency impacted your day-to-day work on your team?
Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to, getting people back to more value-added tasks. One clear example is redirecting coworkers who are previously tied up with that repetitive manual document handling, maybe copying and pasting information from one screen to another, and really trying to streamline that whole process and automate where possible. And then using the AI, it really now allows our team to focus on more strategic projects, including our team. We're spending less time sort of supporting the product, and KnowledgeLake does a great job of that, as well as supporting your own product. And we partner a lot with KnowledgeLake on that work, but it just allows us all to, spend more time on more value added tasks. Productivity boost is a big piece of that. And it's really just a shift in how we allocate our resources now.
That's awesome. Good stuff. Good to see it in action. We talk about it a lot manually, or getting rid of those manual repetitive tasks, but seeing it in production is pretty exciting. So with that, let's switch it over to Nick to walk us through a demonstration of the KnowledgeLake solution at New Belgium and what we did there.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. So as Christy mentioned, I'm going to do a walkthrough of the solution we built. I'll touch on all the important parts, all the highlights, the milestones that an invoice goes through as it's gone through the workflow, and talk about all the different benefits that each step has. So to start with, I'd like to give you a solution overview. So this is just the high points of it. So it's not all the little pieces that the workflow could go down, due to certain scenarios, but this is the main path. So invoices are imported. They go through our intuitive AI data extraction, and then they go to users. So at this point, we've already gotten all the data we need from the invoice itself, and now we just need to actually take action on the invoice, and that's where the users come in. And so we allow users to approve and code right inside of our platform, and they're able to post their invoices directly to Dynamics 365, also in the platform. We then store the record inside of SharePoint online, so that it can be found and searched upon later on. And through that entire process, we're capturing data for reporting. So we're capturing the data about the invoice. We're capturing the data about the invoice going through the workflow, so that at any point in the workflow, we can have reports that let you know exactly where something is, what the status is of particular invoices, and also, overall how the system is performing. So now I'm going to walk through each of these individual pieces to give you a better sense of how it's configured and how it works. So let's start with importing. So obviously one of the most important parts is getting the invoices themselves into the KnowledgeLake system. And so New Belgium does it in really one of two different ways. It's mostly done via email. So the vendors email the invoices to certain inboxes, and KnowledgeLake monitors those inboxes and brings in the invoices and sends them to the correct workflow. A different way that we can do this is using ad hoc or one at a time uploading of invoices. So a user can go into our upload app and they can choose a specific profile. As you can see here on this screen, they have different tiles they can click to make sure that invoice goes to the right workflow. And these are the kinds of things that we implement to make sure that the user doesn't have to have a bunch of knowledge in their head about how the workflows work or how to get things started. They just can load up the screen and they can see a few different things and know exactly what to do and where to upload the documents into. But once the invoices are actually uploaded, the next big step is for it to go through KnowledgeLake's intuitive AI. And so this portion, I think, is a real value add to the overall solution. It cuts down on all that manual classification that Ty was talking about earlier, making sure that documents are invoices and making sure that the values that are brought off the documents, either how it used to be done by a person typing and now done by AI, making sure that all that data is accurate. So intuitive AI first classifies documents to make sure that they are in fact invoices. And this classification is done on day one. So it actually requires minimal, almost no training to get the system up and running. And it stays consistent. So even adding new vendors, because they're always onboarding, new vendors all the time, making sure that we maintain a high level of accuracy without needing to do continual training. And intuitive AI makes that possible. So intuitive AI is also set up to extract the important data automatically from the document itself. And there's really two types of data, kind of boils down to. So there's the data that is like printed on the document, such as invoice number, invoice total, the terms, those kinds of things that we take off and then extract. But there are also some pieces of data like a due date or maybe terms or a summary of the invoice that intuitive AI is able to look at the overall content of the document and then it's able to synthesize what the answer is to whatever's being asked of it. So what is the due date? Okay, well, it's going to take all the information from the invoice and it's going to figure, okay, based on what I know and what we've seen, here's what I think the due date is for this invoice. And then it can populate a field, as you can see on the right-hand side there. And backing all this up, there's also database integrations. And so, New Belgium has data about all these different vendors sitting in databases. And so what we're able to do is we're able to take the data that we extracted from the invoices, things like vendor name, and we're able to then do lookups in the database and pull back all the extra information that is needed during the process. Things like the vendor address, the distributor, the account number, all that's pulled in directly because we were able to automatically extract the vendor name and other important data off the document. All those database lookups run without any kind of user intervention. And then lastly on this front, we're able to intelligently set who the approver of the invoice is and who the finance team's reviewer should be. So whenever an invoice comes into New Belgium, somebody made that purchase, and that person is typically responsible for approving it and maybe even coding the invoice. And so we're able to have a rule set that we build out over time that says, okay, for example, for this vendor and for this PO number rule, we know that this person is the last one who approved this invoice, so let's go ahead and automatically populate them. Or we have other rules in place that come up with who should be the approver, but the point being that we're able to do all that by looking at past actions and past experiences. The user still has full control to manually override any of those values, but we cut out a lot of that legwork and decision making during this step of the process using intuitive AI. So once all that part's done, it now goes out to be approved and potentially coded. So this is the first real manual task, and all this is still done inside the KnowledgeLake platform. So we built custom experiences. This is how the system is set up to be designed. So we're able to pull together these the coding experience and approving experience for the end user, so that they have all the information that they need in order to make whatever decisions need to happen during that approven code task. So at this point, the approver has gotten an email to their inbox, and they click the link and they open up the task. And so the task is really broken up into two different parts, all on one screen. I have it on two different slides here just to make sure that it's big enough so everybody can see. But the first part is approving the invoice. And so on the screen for the approver, they have the document itself, as you can see on the left-hand side. And on the right, we have some questions and some additional data. So at the top, they're able to choose the status. Is it approved? Is it rejected? Does it need to be reassigned? They can choose that. And actually, the questions on the right-hand side change based off of what they selected to make sure that it's routed properly and it has the proper information for that route. So if it goes to the rejected inbox, then they have what they need in order to know why it was rejected. This user can also apply comments to the invoice. And so those comments are attached and they're shown to anybody else who looks at a task related to this invoice in the future. So for this one, we've chosen approved, and we move on to the next part, which is coding. So, this part, the user has to fill out the coding information for the invoice. And so what we've done is we built an experience that allows the user to select all the different parts of the code for each line item that they need to provide a coding for. We have validation built into this so that the user can't move on and approve this invoice without making sure that everything is valid and coded properly. And we also, as you can see on the left-hand side there, we're able to give them a snapshot of all the data that they need in order to, know the context of the invoice and, know how they should maybe be coding it going forward. So this plus the part I just showed you provides the full proven coding experience for the end users in the AP workflow process. So the next part is pretty important. So, this is something that I worked with Ty on. We had to work through all the little details about it because it was a new portion of New Belgium's workflow. So New Belgium, starting last year, made it a corporate mandate to implement delegation of authority for all incoming invoices, meaning that in order for an invoice to be approved, it has to be approved by a person that has the appropriate spending level allowed. So New Belgium wanted to automate this process with KnowledgeLake. And so our workflow is flexible enough, as Ty mentioned or alluded to earlier, to be able to build in a way for us to automate finding first knowing who the initial approver was, and then finding the person up the chain of their hierarchy who has the appropriate spending level, and then creating a task for that person to review the approver's work, and then they can sign off. They can give it the final DOA approval for that invoice. So what we've done with this overall is, we've automated that decision-making and approval escalation that was really, a fundamental requirement for New Belgium to tackle this year as part of this overall AP workflow. And also as part of that, we audit all this data throughout the entire process, just to show compliance and to make sure that we can prove that, hey, this went to this person for approval, went to this person for DOA approval. Here was their level, and then was able to move on down the process. So it has a full audit trail. All right. And then the next step is the finance team gets the invoice passed back to them once it's been approved and coded and gone through DOA approval. And they post the invoice to Dynamics 365. So they're able to, in a task very similar to the one shown for the approvers, they can see all of the data about the invoice, and they can also see how the invoice is coded. And they can make any last-minute changes if needed. They can even send it back to the approver if something occurred that needs a correction. But if everything's good, then they're able to take this data and plug it into Dynamics 365 and have it post for final payment. And then lastly here, we upload our invoices to SharePoint Online. So this is the final record-keeping process to make sure that all invoices are stored in a repository and that they have all the necessary data linked to them so they can be searched upon and found if needed. And as for reporting, so what I mentioned earlier, we're reporting all the analytics and data about invoices as they're going through the workflow, and so you can build reports on it. So to answer the question, where is this invoice at in my process? And I think that about covers it. So I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Pam.
Thanks, Nick. And thanks, Christy and Ty. I think it's really great to hear firsthand from one of our longtime customers who's now moved on to the broader platform, how they're benefiting from intuitive AI, synthetic labor, and all of the feature functionality that we have to offer from our offerings. So thank you again. Reminder to our viewers, please put in any questions that you may have for any of our presenters, for Ty in particular, in terms of his experience, and for Nick or Christy. And in the meantime, while you're all putting in your questions, I wanted to make an offer, open it up to our viewers. We would love to set up a free consultation with you, and we can also do some customized demos with your own documents. So please take advantage of this opportunity. It's very easy to sign up. There is a form here in the attachment section of this webinar that you can fill out very quickly. You can also use the QR code if it's easier, or feel free to email me directly or christy.gary@knowledgelake.com. We're all ready to stand by and speak with you about your specific needs, your specific pain points, and how Knowledge Lake can address them. So please go ahead and fill out that form, reach out to us, and go ahead and put in some questions. I see a couple of questions popping up here. And I just wanted to say, Ty, if there's anything you wanted to add to Nick's demo or to anything that you've discussed so far, please feel free.
Yeah, thanks. I know we have a lot of exciting projects, continuing off of this invoice process. So we're certainly looking forward to those types of things. And then, that in the portion that Nicholas showed around posting the payments into D365, we're really looking to get a direct integration there so that we can more or less post those payments directly into D365 through more automation. So more to come around all of that. And then, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other projects we have slated as well.
Awesome. All right. I see a question coming in. What advice would you give to other businesses in the brewing or manufacturing sectors considering AI-powered solutions for streamlining their processes? So I'm assuming this is more geared towards you, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, AI is an exciting topic right now. We're hearing a lot about it. I would just encourage you to make sure that it is a part of your strategy. If it's not yet, it very much should be. If it's a fast-moving train, but it's Knowledge Lake actually makes it easier for you to jump on that train. It's something that you can start to take advantage of that implementation and the product right away. You don't need a lot of hand holding through the process, although Knowledge Lake is very good about helping us through the more challenging portions of your process and things like that, always there and available. But that AI is not something you should be intimidated by. It's especially from a data extraction standpoint. If this is the type of thing that's going to help ease the process of document processing in any way and removing some of those manual processes, I would just encourage you to have that be very much a part of your strategy. And it's exciting to be a part of, and it's an easy transition, I think.
Wonderful. I have another question. Did you set this up in-house or did you use Knowledge Lake Professional Services?
That's a good question. A lot of times we have partnered with Knowledge Lake, and I've worked with Nicholas a lot over the years. And I think that through this implementation, especially wanting to make sure that we're leveraging the AI portion of this and take advantage of that in the fullest capacity. but also, moving off of some of our old workflow engine and platform, and to really move into KnowledgeLake's workflow platform. It was a transition that we wanted to partner with KnowledgeLake to make sure we were doing things in the best way possible. However, with that said, a lot of times, we still take these types of things and run with it, and we can start to make our own changes from there. Now that we've learned more about the platform, it's invigorated ideas for future projects, of course. And those are types of things where now I think we can sort of take it and run with it from there. But it's all very approachable, and especially if you're already working in that space, if you're doing any type of business process automation, and if you've worked with AI at all, then it's all going to be very intuitive, and it should make a lot of sense. So yeah, I think it's a good mix of all of the above.
Great. Did you have anything to add, Christy or Nick?
No, I mean, I think, a big part of it was, a lot of work was done up front to make sure that both parties, both us and New Belgium understood, the ins and outs of the process that was being automated. There's a lot there, a lot of nuances. And so, we had to work together to make sure that those requirements got translated to, the different points of the workflow and different aspects of the platform as we built it out. So it was definitely a partnership there.
Yeah, and I think I want to add that, we want to be part of that journey from the beginning and help with it and make sure it's designed properly so you're successful. But our end goal is that you can maintain it if you want, make changes, and that knowledge transfer is always part of every project. So we show you, even if we did some of the config, we're going to show you how to maintain it in the future. So definitely a mix, like everybody said. So
great. Again, just a reminder, please put your questions into the question window. We've got the next question. How has the implementation of KnowledgeLake's intuitive AI impacted New Belgium Brewing's overall business goals? And what future initiatives do you see as possible with this platform?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's definitely brought on some new ideas. And as we've tried to think about AI as a larger strategy to New Belgium or to New Belgium IT, it's something we want to take more advantage of. And with KnowledgeLake's AI and workflow engine, we are able to approach some really cool new projects. One, for example, would be kind of a play off of AP invoicing, and that we have these utility bills that everything right from water to gas, electricity, CO2, a lot of different utility bills out there, and also landfill byproduct stuff that we're trying to, we're a very environmental company. So we've been mandated to handle more reporting around greenhouse gas emissions. So what we're doing is able to, I've just been working on this for the last week or so already, and it's been really fun to go and extract a lot of this data around kilowatts and gas and water usage, wastewater usage, and translate that into meaningful data that we're extracting off of these utility bills, and then to provide more downstream auditing and reporting across the business for things like that. And then we have other projects from a quality assurance standpoint where, we're making beer. So we get a lot of information about our malt and things like that from, where we're importing these goods from. And so we have a lot of data and metrics that we get with these shipments. And so we need to be able to extract a lot of that data from simple PDFs and again, so that we can do something more meaningful with that downstream. And that's, preventing somebody from having to manually look at that document, try to understand where all that data is on the document, potentially type that in somewhere, copy and paste that into some sort of repository, and we can automate all of that process. So very huge projects that are now way more approachable. It takes a lot less time for us to start to work on these types of projects and to get that data in a place where we can start to use and leverage it really quickly. So lots of really exciting things to come. But those are things that we're working on even right now.
Wonderful. We have another question here for Ty. Keep them coming. Question for Ty. When you ultimately selected KnowledgeLake, did you evaluate other solutions like Blue Prism or UiPath, etc.? And why didn't those organizations make the cut?
Yeah, I mean, we have had a long-standing partnership with KnowledgeLake at this point, going on a few years now, I think. And we have evaluated things at the inception of that relationship and throughout the process, of course. We're a very big Microsoft shop. So a lot of what we have evaluated against are going to be sort of in that space. And we know that there's offerings there from many different aspects of the industry and then the IT space. But inevitably, just kind of going back to a few things. KnowledgeLake has always been a really good match for us. You all have a very similar, like-minded culture, I feel like, at KnowledgeLake, and everyone that we've worked with has been a pleasure. I know I've worked with Nicholas for many years now, and Christy, and so many others at KnowledgeLake. So the team is really good and really aligned to, especially, like I said, all of the pieces of New Belgium as part of our strategy, right, is to, whether it's right or wrong, is that our processes can be sometimes complex. We try to make them as simple as possible, but we also need to be meeting the business requirements when we launch these projects. And so the adaptability and the flexibility that I spoke about earlier very much plays into our selection of working with KnowledgeLake, and the integration too, being able to integrate within the products that we use and within our process, it played a key role into that as well. So lots of different things out there. There is lots of products, of course. One thing that we loved about KnowledgeLake around this AI component is being able to move fairly quickly in that space. I mean, to have AI readily available to use almost at the start of this project, which when we started down this path, right, Nicholas, it was just earlier this year. I just feel like there's a lot of AI talk and a lot of AI hype out there right now, but who's actually being able to leverage it right now? And KnowledgeLake is doing that. So I think these are all good reasons why we chose KnowledgeLake.
Awesome. Well, we really love working with you too, and with all of our customers. Another question. What are some key factors in building a successful partnership with New Belgium Brewing, and how did KnowledgeLake support them throughout the integration and adoption process? I think this one is probably more geared towards Nick and Christy.
Yeah, so I think how we were able to support New Belgium and make sure that this project was successful, a lot of it was, I think I mentioned earlier, but a lot of upfront work of doing discovery and making sure that, I knew and our team knew exactly what we were looking to automate and what we were looking to put into the KnowledgeLake platform, and making sure that, we work with Ty and his team on, going through each of the different, because there was an existing system in place. It was fairly manual. They were looking to upgrade and get it to the cloud, all these things. But there were a lot of different places that we had to shine a light on and determine is this an appropriate thing to add to this workflow. It's kind of like and for better or for worse, it's kind of a fresh start, I think, where it's like, okay, we're gonna be designing this thing using KnowledgeLake's workflow automation and intuitive AI. So let's think through technically how it's supposed to work, and then also make sure that we bring in stakeholders from the finance team for sure early on to make sure that they have proper input, that we bounce ideas off them, make sure that there's going to be I guess the name of the game is really reduce the friction at launch time for those teams, the actual end users, because we can design a system and think that it's going to be great, and we build it with all of our ideas in mind, but we had to make sure that we built it for the end users really, so that they were successful with it. So I think that was something that worked really well between our two teams and making sure that the project was successful in the end.
Great. Christy, anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, something he touched on was the business users. And I think that's really key. Like Ty's really good at, whereas the IT presence, but it's like, we're going to have to involve the end users at the beginning. And we have seen projects, to be perfectly honest, through the years that, it's just IT trying to design a solution. You just can't do that. So I think that would be my advice, to bring them in at the beginning. They have to approve the design, or they're not going to want to do it. Right. So although IT always should be involved, I think it's a good idea. The business users really need to make those decisions because they know their process. So, yeah.
Great. Again, just a reminder, if you have any questions, please put them in the question window. And a reminder, like you see on the screen, feel free to fill out the form. We can schedule a free consultation, a customized demo with your documents and your process to see how KnowledgeLake can help you. We'll give it another couple of seconds here to see if any other questions pop in. I think, let me look one more time. But yeah, just go ahead and fill out that form. We'd love to work with you on some free consultations here. And I think that is all for the questions. But if you have questions after the webinar, feel free to send those too. I want to thank Christy, Ty, Nick for sharing your incredible insights, Ty in particular for sharing the story. I hope this discussion inspired many of our viewers to really explore KnowledgeLake and our intuitive AI platform and see how we can drive the same or results that you need for your business, depending on your business needs. Any other points that you want to say as we say goodbye?
Thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it. Always great to work with y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ty.
Yeah, it was 10 years this year, by the way, our partnership. So in July was 10 years. So that didn't seem possible. But yeah, we really thank you for your partnership and for joining us today. So
great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.